Welcome into the debut episode of Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast. If you're like us and you miss the days when you could go to a video store on a Friday night, rent a movie, then forget to return it and get some late fees, then this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Caleb Suggs. I'm joined with me by my co-host, Dakota Lowry. How are you
Hello.
today?
Doing all right, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Good week. Good week going.
Yeah, it's been a little warm, but it's all right.
Yeah, I'm very glad that I don't have to go outside much during the summer for work.
It's a struggle because we hired some new high schoolers, like kids right out of high school, and they don't really understand the fact that hey, like you have to hydrate and you can't just chug 4 Gatorades in an hour. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks.
It's so hot. Like, and what's funny is I love seeing the reports from Britain where they're going through the heat wave, but it's like I don't know how many degrees Celsius, but it's like 78 degrees. But then they don't have air conditioning or central air. So.
Oh yeah. I remember I saw a TikTok the other day from it's a guy it's Josh from England or something like that, and he was like, as the official person who spent several months in America, Brits have nothing to complain about.
Yes, I mean if they would die in this heat,
literally.
But yeah, man. So look, finally getting to do this podcast. 3 years in the making.
Heck yeah. It is kind of nice to be doing the podcast and not having to worry about the audio stuff. I guess the technical side of it is what I should say.
Yeah, don't say that because then I'm going to get to try to do it and I'm going to find out I can't do it and you're going to have to step in and do it.
It's not as hard, man. Like, this is kind of crazy technology because the last time we did this, we had a soundboard and mics and everything. And now, you can literally just do this from your laptop with a gaming headset,
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't miss having to try to get together at someone's house and set up all that equipment, and I don't miss that.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's less of the getting together and more of the setting all the equipment up for 30 to 45 minutes.
I enjoyed getting together.
Yeah.
But it was just like, hey, are you free this day? It's like, but yeah, man, we came up with this idea 3 years ago.
Something like that, yeah.
And then I guess we just part of that. I was stupid to realize that we could do this remotely. I kept thinking we had to get together like we used to do. We used to have another podcast that we did, and so we never got it off the ground. And then here recently, I realized, hey, we can do this remotely. So here we are, 3 years. Better late than never, right?
Yeah, no kidding. COVID had a big part of that, and kind of thankful,
So, but man, we've been looking forward to this. We're both movie guys. I grew up watching classic movies, older movies. I think I've watched, a bunch of older movies, and there's still some classics I haven't seen, but I've watched a lot of old movies, and I kind of prefer old movies. But you're a big movie guy. Your family, but you said your family didn't grow up watching movies, so a lot of these older movies you haven't seen. So this is kind of like an excuse to go through and watch some of these.
And, to kind of reintroduce me to some of these things.
And so first movie we're doing, we wanted to, obviously start off with something good. And so we actually picked, 3 or 4 different ones. And
there was a ton.
And then before we landed on Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I think is a great place to start.
Yeah, good classic, I think, for really anybody wanting to start out and just good cult classic movies,
I don't know if I'd call Raiders Lost Ark a cult classic.
You know what I mean. Just I guess I meant more like that, just classic movies,
Yeah,
just a good place to start.
So, kind of want to. So when we were talking about this, you said you thought you had seen this movie before. Did it when you were watching it again? Did it bring up memories or?
Oh, it absolutely did. I remember sitting down and watching it, and I remember my parents now sitting me down and telling me, "Hey, you need to watch this. This is a really great movie. You would really enjoy it." And at the time, I guess I was just a dumb kid, and I didn't think I would. But I think my parents saw the nerd in me before, before I ever fully realized it.
Isn't that so? I was the same way growing up. My dad would always be like, "Hey, we're gonna watch this movie," and you're just like a stupid kid. You're like, "Well, if you're forcing me to watch it, I don't want to watch it." And so then you get an attitude. But then you watch it and you're like, oh, that was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, I think I was that way about the Harry Potter stuff.
I had so many movies growing up. Likewise, so I'm sure if my dad listens to this, he's gonna be smirking because he's like, "Yeah, I told you, son."
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So my first memories of this movie are not actually with the movie. So I went to Disney World when we were, I was probably about 6 or 7, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And at the Hollywood Studios, they have a live action reenactment of this movie where they do the beginning with the stone, the boulder, and then I think they do the scene where they're running through, getting chased through the city of Egypt, whichever city it was they're in. I guess Cairo.
It was Cairo, yeah.
And then the scene where they're on the tarmac with the German plane.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
do those three scenes, and I remember I just absolutely loved that. I think we watched that show multiple times while we were there, and so that was actually my first memory of the movie. And then when I got home, my dad didn't go with us on that trip. Told dad about it, how much I loved it. He showed me the movie, so and then I actually saw the whole movie. So, but yeah, I always thought that was interesting. So it's like the first memory I have of the movie is not actually the movie.
Yeah, it's kind of cool how some of that stuff takes place and like happens of how we come in like contact with it, you know. So
But anyways, we'll try to get into the movie. Raiders of the Lost Ark is a 1981 American action adventure film directed by Steven Spielberg with a screenplay by Lawrence Kasdan. It's based on a story by George Lucas and Philip Kaufman. So this is kind of like, I mean, the love child, Steven
mm-hmm.
Spielberg and George Lucas. George Lucas had obviously done Star Wars, and that's where he got real big. So I think this is, I'm trying to think. So this came out in 81.
Yeah.
So I think 2 Star Wars movies had come out by then. So obviously
I'm
Star
not
Wars
sure.
was huge. And then Spielberg did Jaws, obviously did some other stuff. So this was a pretty big, like a all-star cast, like something like trying to think of the Avengers coming together at that, or at least at that time period.
Yeah, it really was. Especially for then, yeah.
So but so we'll go through a little bit of the facts. It grossed $389.9 million at the box office on just a budget of $20 million, which is pretty impressive.
That's a pretty big yeah, that's a
I,
pretty big
I would say
box office.
slightly successful, right?
Yeah, just a little bit.
It was the highest grossing movie in America in 1981, beating out On Golden Pond, which I've never seen. I don't actually know what that movie is. And then
Yeah, I don't know.
Superman 2. So beat out those two movies, and I don't think it was expected to beat out Superman 2. I think that came out. Let's see, this came out in the summer. I think Superman 2 was expected to be the blockbuster of the summer, which it was a great movie and earned a lot of money. But
Mm-hmm.
Raiders of the Lost Ark was kind of the kind of exploded through, and deservedly so. It's a great movie.
Yeah. I think out of all the movies of the 80s, there was only 5 movies ahead of it.
Yeah.
Grossing at
Yes.
the box office at least.
Yeah. So in this movie, the United States Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the National Film Registry in 1999. So it just kind of shows you the cultural impact that this movie had. And, stars Harrison Ford, who's obviously
Mm-hmm.
coming off the 2 Star Wars movies.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty big commodity at the time. It's actually funny. So he started it, but he wasn't the original guy picked.
Yeah, I saw that earlier that it was Tom, was it Tom Selleck or something like that?
Tom Selleck, yeah. But
Selleck, yeah.
he had a crap, what's that TV show he was doing? I can't think of it. Magnum PI. Magnum
Yeah,
PI.
that's what it was. That's
So
what it was.
they tried to get him out of the contract, but they couldn't do it. So, which I mean, hey, Magnum PI was on for a lot of episodes, so
Yeah, I mean, it ran for almost a decade.
Still pretty successful, but and I think it worked out. I'm sure Tom Selleck would have done a good job, but now it's hard to envision anybody else but Harrison Ford doing this.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it came out, 1981. I mean, seriously though, $389 million on a budget of $20 million. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So, but I
that
guess
really is.
I'm trying to think if there's any other kind of little facts or something that I wanted to go through before we get into the movie. Guess not. But all right, so let's dive into the movie. In 1936, American archaeologist Indiana Jones recovers a golden idol from a booby-trapped Peruvian temple. Rival archaeologist Rene Belloc corners him and steals the idol. Jones escapes in a waiting float plane. After returning to the United States, Jones is briefed by 2 Army intelligence agents that Nazi German forces are excavating at Tanis, Egypt, and one of their telegrams mentions Jones' former mentor, Abner Ravenwood. Jones deduces that the Nazis are seeking the Ark of the Covenant, which Adolf Hitler believes will make their army invincible. The agents recruit Jones to recover the Ark first. So, I think the beginning of this movie is one of the probably best opening scenes in a movie that I've probably ever seen. Off the top of my head, I can't think of much that would beat it. I mean, it's just iconic. I feel like even if you haven't seen this movie, you've seen in some kind of cultural, whether it be other TV shows or something, where you've seen him, grabbing the golden idol and then the boulder chasing him down. I mean, that's just something that I feel like everybody knows that, even if they haven't seen the movie.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't help but thinking the entire time that I was watching it that and I know this sounds stupid, but you know those games where people put like so many jelly beans in a jar, and then they have to guess how many it is. I'm sitting there thinking like this guy would be great at these things, right? Like,
because he knew where the traps were.
Yeah, because he could like just pick it out of everything, man.
I was so confused where you were going with that.
No, that was what my mom was going through the whole time. Where he could just notice like the littlest minute booby traps sticking out or whatever, and then I'm like, this guy's got to be really good at this. But then it comes up, and obviously he misses the weight of the relic, and sets the trap off.
That's hilarious, though, that you're watching that. That's what. I mean, not that you're wrong, but it's like you're watching that, and I'm like, man, this guy could really get some jelly beans. And then he had a really cool opening, like where he's kind of like he's standing there. You haven't seen his face yet, and the guy turns his gun on him, and he pulls out the whip, and then he emerges from the shadows. First off, I'm not really sure what the dude was thinking. Like, you don't have the treasure you're going for yet.
Yep.
Which I guess, I mean, maybe he thought, hey, he'll lead us here, and then we'll go get it. But obviously, we see. Which, by the way, the guy that goes into the place with him, the temple, and then takes the idol and ends up getting killed by a trap. Did you recognize him?
I don't think I did.
So that was actually Alfred Molina, Doc Ock, in Spider-Man.
Oh yeah. I knew I recognized him from somewhere. I didn't know. Yep, look at that. There he is. I've got the cast list pulled up here.
I think that was his first major role or movie role or something like that. So yeah,
that's pretty what it started out in.
I don't even know. I didn't recognize him, until I had seen that fact. I didn't place him. I mean, because obviously, I recognize him from Spider-Man, and Spider-Man came out 03, 04, Spider-Man 2, I can't somewhere around there. So you're looking at what, 20 plus years.
Right at 20, 21 years.
So he was kind of young in this movie, so.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, I thought that an interesting tidbit. So, and then he gets the idol, escapes the boulder, gets the treasure taken away by his rival archaeologist, which it's gotta suck. This guy. It's like when you're doing a group project and you do all the work and then someone else gets all the credit. It's like he didn't actually do anything and then gets the treasure.
Yeah, that's what happens. It seems like it's happening every time with these bad guys like this.
I just think it was funny as he's running down to the plane. He's being chased by these half-naked tribesmen with bows and arrows, and he's yelling at the dude to start the plane. The dude's fishing. He sees him yelling, and it's like at first he goes back to fishing, and he didn't want to stop fishing.
Yep. Well, he had one on the line. Did you not see the whole boat, the whole fishing pole and everything?
I'm not a fisherman, but how important is a fish when you're watching someone, your partner or whatever, friend, I guess, being chased and shot at?
Hey, man, he had time. Look, let me tell you, some fishermen are dedicated.
Obviously.
And it's a little ridiculous, but I give it to him. My guy just wanted to catch a fish. How many times are you going to have an option to be in, whatever forest that they're in, and to fish in that area and catch some wild fish?
Probably not. Not me. I wouldn't have the option because ain't no way I'm going to some of these places they go,
Oh,
they go
absolutely
to.
not. Absolutely not.
But so then he returns to the States. We find out he's a professor, which I think is really cool. I think most of the time the stars in action movies are all these buffed up guys,
Mm-hmm.
who whatever your typical, especially in the '80s with
Yeah.
Stallone and Schwarzenegger, and Ford was that way too. I mean, he did Han Solo and he did other
Mm-hmm.
roles, but I mean, Indiana Jones is basically just a nerd.
Yeah. He's literally just an archaeologist. Yeah.
And he's not proficient in martial arts or anything. I mean, yeah, he
Mm-hmm.
goes and he can hold his own in a fight, and he obviously has a gun. He shoots people, and like any other '80s action star does. But I mean, it's just more of like, I mean, there's just a theme throughout the entire Indiana Jones franchise where he's like, I'm just making this up as I go,
Mm-hmm.
and basically, I'm just getting out of this in luck. But
Which I think he says that later on in the movie too, where he's
yes,
just
I'm
literally just making the
yeah.
plan up as I go.
He says it multiple times throughout the franchise. I'm just sure.
I'm sure he does. Yeah.
And hey, I like that. This is being honest. Like we're just making this up as we go.
Yeah.
Because he's not like, I mean, he's an archaeologist. He's not like a trained soldier or anything.
Mm-hmm. Which I kind of like how they explain off like how he's doing what he's doing like in his day-to-day life, instead of just a lot of other action movies. It's just it goes from yeah, I'm here, and then they show up at the next movie. What have you been doing since then? Well, just been hanging out. Like none of them have jobs, none of them have anything, but he's actually like doing something, and I kind of appreciate that.
He's a ladies' man too.
Oh, absolutely, he is.
He's in class, and then class ends, and all the ladies drop their notes in, and then you just got this one dude that just puts an apple there.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, so the Ark of the Covenant, pretty
Mm-hmm.
interesting. It kind of ties a little bit history into this, and obviously biblical stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I tried to read a little bit into it because I know that Hitler believed in this stuff, and believed that finding it would make. But I tried to like look into it and see like how much he actually searched for these things, during the
Mm-hmm.
war and stuff. I feel like it's, I mean, a little bit embellished, but I think, I mean, for what I'm, him and not just him, but kind of the Nazi Party in general really did believe in this stuff, and searching it and believe that it would make their army invincible or better or win the war or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, I mean, you also have to take though, like he was extremely, what's the word like race? I guess racist would be the word. Like he was extremely racist towards Jews, and this is a major Jewish,
Yeah,
artifact that he's trying to find.
I mean, yeah, I guess he was a tad racist.
Like just a little.
Just a little. Well, at a bar in Nepal, Jones reunites with Abner's daughter Marion, with whom Jones once had an illicit relationship, and learns that Abner is dead. The bar is set ablaze during a scuffle with Gestapo agent Arnold Todt, who arrives to take a medallion from Marion. Toad attempts to recover the medallion from the flames, but only burns its image into his hand. Jones and Marion safely take the medallion and escape. Uh, First off, I don't know if it's Todd. I don't know how you say that, but I remember in my notes that I wrote down for this movie and then lost, which I'm still pretty ticked about because I had a lot of good stuff written down. But I remember writing when you first saw the Gestapo agent, I was like, that's a perfect casting for a Nazi. He just looks like a Nazi.
Absolutely.
And so literally that was what I wrote down when he first shows up. Like that's just he just screams Nazi. So perfect caption there. And I'm trying. I had a lot of notes for this for the bar fight, and so I'm really mad that I lost my notes, man.
Okay, so the one thing, so I watched this in with my headphones in. Yeah, so I watched this with my headphones in, and one of the things that really, really stood out to me was the over-exaggerated sound effects. It really just gave me like this very like a huge sense of nostalgia, just thinking back to like I mean, nowadays like we have such realistic, like gunshots and things like this. Like I remember watching a movie with my dad one time where like I think I might have been playing a video game or something where there was like a scene where a helicopter comes by, shooting a 50 cal out of the gunner, And he's like, hey, that's actually really realistic. But like, this is obviously just like extremely bass enhanced and clearly like nothing like a gunshot. But I absolutely loved it when I was
Yes.
sitting here watching it.
Yes, nostalgia. I mean, that's the '80s, and that's what
Oh yeah.
makes. One thing that cracked me up was, so I'm pretty sure the entire franchise he always has a revolver,
Mm-hmm.
really, especially in this movie. And
Yeah.
then so in the bar fight, I don't know. I think at one point it shows his gun and it's not a revolver; it's like a regular pistol, but still. The amount of shots he shoots from that gun and never
Oh,
reloads.
I know. Oh, I know.
Which I know is a movie thing, but it was funny to me because I was watching it and I was like, this seems more than 6 bullets. I tried to count them at one point. It got a little hard to count, but
I'm a little impressed that you knew that most revolvers only shoot 6 rounds.
I'm
No,
not an
I'm
idiot. I know.
well, I mean, but that's just not common knowledge, though.
I would think it's common knowledge. Everybody knows, or I would feel like it, especially if you've watched a Western movie or anything.
Yeah, if you've watched westerns and stuff, yeah. But yeah, that's one of the things that really it always bugged me when I was younger about the hey, we're shooting 18 rounds out of a 6-round magazine, but well,
And then I love that she's carrying the medallion around her neck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not really like it's like a pendant or something. Like, this is a pretty big thing, and it's like, which it makes it more dramatic because after he leaves, she like takes it off and like, hey, I've had it this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, this thing's pretty big to just be carrying around your neck all the time.
Yeah, and it's pretty like I don't know. It's a pretty like heavy. What's the word I'm saying? Like, I mean, with it being such a heavy artifact, it's like such a big artifact. Like, why would you carry that around on your neck?
Well, I get it's imported, but plus also let me tell you, Marion can handle her alcohol.
Absolutely, she can.
I don't know how many shots she took, but she was. I mean, she took all them shots, and then hey, she was fine.
Yeah.
Having completely normal conversations with people.
Yeah.
Handling the bar, fighting the Nazis. I mean, she was good, man. So she can definitely handle her liquor. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
And then
you have to if you're a bar owner, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true. And then the Nazis come in and they're like, "We're here to look for this medallion," and the medallion's literally just sitting there on the table.
Yeah,
it's like,
really
and it's not like it's small, like we said, it's big. So it's like, could you really not notice it's just sitting there on the table? Like, really?
Yeah.
I feel like that if I walked in, that would be like one of the first things I noticed. Like, oh, look at that, this giant jewel that's just sitting there on the table, and then it's sitting there in flames, and the dude just picks it up, like.
Which, speaking of which, the Arnold Tote, or however you say his name, the scar that it left on the palm of his hands is a pretty cool looking scar, if you ask me.
Yeah,
I remember he shows it later in the film, and it's like him popping it up. I remember being a little grossed out, but I was like, you know what? Like, it's a pretty cool scar to have a story about,
Yeah. I don't know if I'd want to tell that story though. Yeah, it was sitting in fire, and I touched it.
Yeah, it is a pretty dumb, but I mean, in context, I was trying to find this ancient artifact.
Well, traveling to Cairo, the pair meet Jones' friend Salah. Salah reveals Belloc is assisting the Nazis who have fashioned an incomplete replica medallion from the burns on Tote's hand. Nazi soldiers and mercenaries attack Jones, and Marion is seemingly killed, leaving Jones despondent. And Iman deciphers the medallion for Jones, revealing that one side bears a warning against disturbing the Ark, and the other bears complete measures for the Staff of Ra, an item used to locate the Ark. Jones and Salah realize the Nazis are digging in the wrong location, infiltrate the Nazi dig site, and use the medallion and quickly size Staff of Ra to locate the Well of Souls, the Ark's resting place. So, first off, I want to say Salah, which I really like the actor that plays Salah, and but originally, if what I've read is right, originally that was supposed to be Danny DeVito, which to me just
well, I could see that.
It just changed, but Salah's like this big person, he's pretty not humongous, but he's a pretty well-sized man. So it's a much different presentation if you have Danny DeVito, who is not a big person.
Yeah, especially because there's that height difference that you have there that you'd have
Yeah.
to make up for. Like, I don't know, man. I just don't feel like Danny DeVito would have been a good pick for that.
I mean, either way, it's a white guy playing an Egyptian, but
You are true here. Yeah, you know what? This actually is here on Wikipedia on the character cast list. Danny DeVito was the original choice to portray Sala, but he declined. Also, Kavork Malikian
man, we are
auditioned to
just
portray Sala.
butchering some names
Oh,
on this
absolutely
episode
not.
with our
But
southern accents.
yeah, no kidding.
Might have should have picked something more easier so we could actually get people that want to listen to this. But hey, it is what it is. So, so you have the whole the shootout in Cairo, which is a great scene, a little chase action scene. So it's pretty funny the iconic scene where you have the guy swinging the swords and then he just pulls out the gun and shoots him. So that only happened because Harrison Ford was sick when they were filming, and it was supposed to be like a drawn out action scene, and they changed it, and now it's like an iconic scene. Which is funny how things work out that way sometimes.
Yep. Which like this says here, the gag came about because Harrison Ford was suffering from dysentery and did not want to spend 3 days filming a conventional fight. On the first take, Richards took a minute and a half to die. So on the next take, Ford shot him so quickly that Richards fell over in surprise. Ford would later say he felt sorry for Richards because he worked so hard on that sword play.
I do feel bad, but I mean, it's such a great, and it fits more into, I think, his, you know, like, hey, I'm not gonna get, you know, because he's an archaeologist, he's a professor, so he's a smart guy.
Oh,
like, why would you just sit there and you know, have this sword fight? You're not a swordsman. So
especially because wasn't it at that time that they already had Marion and they were running away with her?
Yeah, I think so. You know,
so like, why would you waste the time trying to kill one guy when you're trying to, you know, get to her?
I'm very annoyed because I wanted this to be really fresh in my mind when I watched this movie, but then my mic took a week extra late to get here. So now I'm trying to remember back exactly, you know, what happened. But yeah, I think they had him. I know. I didn't think it was. There was something about the chase scene. I couldn't. I'm gonna go the entire podcast complaining about how I lost my notes.
It'll be all right. You'll just remember it tonight when you wake up.
Exactly. That's exactly. But so then, you know, they get over there and they're you know, they have the complete measurements. You know, he gets down into which the entire time. Actually, so I'm going to go ahead and go into the rest. So they recover the Ark, a golden, intricately decorated chest, but Belloc and the Nazis discover them and seize it. Jones and Marion, who Belloc has held captive, are sealed inside the well, but the pair escape and Jones captures a truck carrying the Ark. So, first of all, so he finds Marion, and he's going to set her free. But then he realizes, if I set her free, they're going to be looking for us. I have to go get this Ark. So he doesn't set her loose. So my first thing is, how many women? Okay, no. How many men could not set a woman free from captivity against, you know, an enemy army or whatever, and still get that woman at the end of the day?
Yeah, no kidding. I don't really think that's realistic because I could see the argument in my head right now. You were more concerned about that little golden box than you were rescuing me. Like I could hear it in my head right now.
Oh, absolutely! If any woman, my wife, your wife, if we chose, it doesn't matter how ancient or how great this artifact is. If we chose an object over them, we would never hear the end of it. We would probably get might be divorced, but we would definitely never hear the end of it.
Oh, wait, I'd be killed. There's no question about it. I would be killed.
Which I have to say, I'm not gonna complain about it, because if I was in that scenario and someone could free me from Nazi captivity and they didn't, I would probably be pretty mad too.
Yeah, which I see his logic, but I guess in my mind, like, why didn't you think about that before you got there? If you know where the Ark's at, then why didn't you go just look for the Ark and not try to rescue it in the first place?
It's okay. And so here's my second issue. So he's worried about them finding him, right? That's why he can't
Mm-hmm.
set her free. Okay, they're on this little hill where they're digging. It's not like it's way off in the distance from where they are. It's
Yeah,
like
they're
a
like
little
500
hill
feet.
overlooking the dig site, and they just go through the whole night and recover the ark. And then in the morning, the Belloc and the Nazis walk out of the tent, and they just see them. And it's like, how did you just now see these people over here digging that are
Yeah,
clearly not digging where you're telling them to dig?
yeah, no kidding. And it's obviously like a full moon out, you know?
Yes,
So
and it's
people are
not
going to
like it
see,
was.
like,
They had, I mean, they had multiple people helping him. It's not like it was just Indy, which is, I mean, it's still, I mean, it's just when he walks out of the tent, he clearly, it's you can clearly see the cliff, so it's not like it's shaded, behind stuff where you
yeah.
can't really see. You can clearly see it.
I think the other big thing that really bothered me about this whole scene where they're digging was when they finally get to the stone and they get it uncovered. Okay, they take baling bars or just pry bars and they stick them down into the top of the lid, and they're pulling on it to pry it up. Right, makes
Yeah,
perfect sense. But then Indy's sitting here looking at him. He says, "All right, guys, push, push, push," and then it cuts to the other guys, and they're clearly pulling. And I'm like, "What's going on here, guys?"
hey, push pull. Hey, we struggle with it sometimes, and then
Yeah,
drop. So drops down, gets in the ark.
absolutely
Snakes on
crazy with all the snakes everywhere.
Sna-
No way.
if I saw the snakes, I'd been like, nope, I'm going back home. I got a pretty good job as a professor. I don't need this kind of
Right.
stress in my life.
Which I do think it's a really like interesting choice that they pick serpents, like snakes and serpents, to protect like this huge like religious Christian artifact, or like Jewish artifact.
Yeah, I
Like,
guess I didn't think about it that way. That's a pretty good point.
and
I
then to
guess
think about the way that they hold them back too is that they're holding them back with fire.
yeah. Look at you with the English AP English symbolism,
Yeah, that's where it comes from.
which is
Thanks,
funny
Miss. What her
because
name was?
I'm the one that writes for a living, and you're always been the math guy. But hey,
Yeah, I'm not the
kudos,
writer at all.
kudos for you. But all right. So where was I at? They recover. Okay, they recover the Ark. I already read that. But the pair escape, and Jones captures a truck carrying the Ark alongside Marion. Jones arranges to transport the Ark to London aboard a tramp steamer. A German U-boat intercepts the steamer and seizes the Ark and Marion. Jones covertly boards the U-boat. The vessel travels to an island in the Aegean Sea. Aegean. Man, I'm just butchering stuff tonight. Aegean Sea, where Belloc attends to test the power of the Ark before presenting it to Hitler. So So we have the great chase scene in the truck, which again I think is a
Mhm.
pretty good action because it's kind of realistic action.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
guy, a guy who's not a soldier or anything, and we get the scene on the tarmac with which I love because like I said, it goes back to my childhood when I watched this show
Hmm.
at Disney World, and that was part of it. So. And then, you get Marion with the machine gun, and it's like, okay, you're on a German. It's not a military base, but there's obviously lots of military, and so you got these explosions, and it's like, how did reinforcements not come?
Yeah, well,
Like,
it's like I think it was mentioned earlier in the like I think it was when Marion actually came in when Abner who was it? Was it Abner that was with him or Belloc? Dude in the
Abner's
white
with,
suit.
yeah, that's Belloc.
Okay,
Abner's
so
her dad that was dead.
yeah, he died. That's right. That's right. So Belloc comes in when he comes into the tent and she goes to flee it the first time. He tells her like, "Hey, if you leave, you're 3 weeks away from any other type of civilization in the
Yeah,
desert." So,
but it's like, hey, she's shooting this machine gun on this plane. You would think people would hear that, and then nobody
oh yeah,
notices
I see what
until
you're saying.
the explosions go up. But
I see you're
hey,
talking about for the rest of the camp. I see what
yeah.
you're saying now. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But anyways, we get on the boat. German U-boat intercepts it. And then so I'd always heard about the submarine controversy. and I didn't really know what that was. So apparently, the submarine controversy, and I guess it makes sense now, was him boarding the U-boat where he's just like actually not on the boat, he's just hanging on, and he rides with
Yeah,
it into the islands. So it's like, how would he know that they weren't going to submerge? Because you're in the middle
literally.
of the ocean, so
I don't that one kind of I didn't really get because it's not like he opened up the cell to get inside the U-boat. It's not like he did either. You tell me he just hung on for however many miles underwater to get there. You know how
I
deep
mean,
those things get.
if that's a gamble, he should probably go gambling later because obviously he's pretty good at it.
I mean, he took a gamble with not setting Marion free, and he still got hurt. So,
But so they go, and I wish so they go to the island. I feel like I had a note about this. So where do you stand? I mean, you've obviously heard this. Where do you stand on Indiana Jones is ultimate, like being like his what's the word I'm looking for? His I can't think of what the word I'm looking for. His impact on the movie.
mm,
You've heard that, right? Where people are like, he's like an actually pretty ineffective like protagonist, where he doesn't have like an
yeah.
actual. So
As far as the outcome goes, like he didn't really play a big part in the outcome. I mean, he was just stood there tied to a light post.
yeah,
You
so
know,
so they go to the island, and so that my thing is, and I guess it did explain it, but it explained it like, hey, we need to open this because what if the Führer Hitler opens it, and it's not there, but I was
mm-hmm.
trying to think. So when they're at, and that makes sense, but when they're at when they first get the Ark, they're planning on flying it out, right?
Yeah,
Because that's why they had
yeah,
the plane, and he blew up the
right,
plane. So were
right.
they planning to fly it to that island, or were they planning to fly it to
Well,
Germany,
no, didn't they say that they were planning to fly it to London?
London, or something? No, it wasn't London, was it? Was it?
Yeah, Jones. Well, no, alongside Mary, Jones arranges to transport the art, and Jones was going to take it to London.
Yeah, but
Well, no,
but they were gonna.
that's where it was going on the boat. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't really know
I
how they were
so
going
I'm
to get
trying to
that there.
so I'm trying to remember. I can't remember, and I'm sure if anybody listens to this, they're probably going to be like, "Hey, you're an idiot." They were planning to fly it to the island, but I don't remember them saying. I would think if you
Yeah,
were
I
going
don't.
to fly it somewhere, you would probably fly it to Berlin, right, or wherever in Germany.
They because Bollock said something about that. Didn't he say something about waiting to open
Yeah,
the arc until they were in Berlin?
yeah, and so it's like, if that's the case, that's just my question, like, because obviously it does make sense that you know um that they take it to the island and they open it because they want to make sure before they give it to Hitler. So that makes sense, but originally if they were I just don't know, were they originally going to fly it to the island? So I don't really, so I guess that's like my only
Okay,
thing.
so fan theory is they did intend to plan on flying the art directly to Berlin, but when India inadvertently blew up the plane after his impromptu boxing match with a bald-headed grounds crewman, it resulted in the art ending up on the truck.
And then and then he steals it, ends up on the boat, and they go to the island. So
Yeah,
if that's the way we're going with this, then technically Indiana Jones is not an effective protagonist, because if he had blown up the plane, they take it to Berlin, and well, actually,
actually would have ended World War II a lot earlier.
before before
So
this is 1936, so it hadn't even started yet.
see, look. Indiana Jones calls World War II. Synopsis of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Hey, I'm gonna write a thesis paper about that. So yep, all right. So Indiana Jones, world cause of World War II.
Yeah, I guess looking at that now, like I guess he's not necessarily ineffective because he is ineffective in getting it to where it's at, like its final resting place, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
but I mean, it don't it don't bother me either way. Whatever your theory, however you view that. I mean, it's still Indiana Jones, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we've decided the true cause of World War II.
Yeah, he absolutely is.
Anyways, on the island, Jones ambushes the Nazi group and threatens to destroy the Ark, but surrenders after Belloc deduces that Jones would never destroy something so historically significant, also surmising that Jones wants to know if the Ark's power is real. The Nazis restrain Jones and Marion at the testing site as Belloc ceremonially opens the Ark but finds only sand inside. At Jones' instruction, he and Marion close their eyes to avoid looking at the opened Ark as it releases spirits, flames, and bolts of energy that kill Belloc, Tote, and the assembled Nazis before sealing itself shut. Jones and Marion open their eyes to find the area cleared of bodies and their bindings removed. So, again, I get that he's a realistic, this archaeologist. He's not a soldier or anything. But what's your plan when you just get up on a mountain with an RPG?
Yeah.
So,
no kidding.
What?
Because and this is twice that he said, "Give me the girl, or I blow up the Ark." And Bollock's like, you know what? I call you bluff. I don't think you're actually gonna do it. You want to see this open? And he's like, "Yeah, you're right. I picked the Ark over the girl again."
But then also, like, okay, so he's like, "Give me the girl, or I blow up the Ark." Well, if they don't give you the girl, are you gonna blow up the girl?
Yeah.
So, is that your? So it's like either you give me the girl or she dies, and you die with her.
Yeah, that's so, literally what I was thinking as I was watching it.
Not his best plan. I mean, look, granted, if I was in that situation, I don't really know what plan I would come up with, but
I also don't understand like how he put himself in a position to be followed up there by other. Because he would have been captured one way or another, right?
Yeah.
Because
I don't. I mean, unless
you see as he lowers the RPG, like the people come up behind him, right? So like he's caught one way or another.
Unless he, the only way, unless he takes them all out with one rocket, which I know an RPG has some blast, but I don't know, is he going to take them all out?
I don't think he would have took all of them.
Probably not. So not the best plan. Which obviously it doesn't work out. He gets binded, and then we get the great face melting scene, which is always a classic.
That kind of So I remember watching it. There was actually a few times in this movie that I remember watching it, and I was like, "What is this rated?" You know.
So,
and I was really surprised when I went back and saw that it was only rated PG.
So it was actually at the time there was no PG-13. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this movie is kind of credited with not necessarily creating PG-13, but being like one of the movies that led to, because from what I've read, it was very close to being rated R, and there were actually some scenes I think they reshot or redid to keep it from being rated R.
Mm-hmm.
Like at one point, a specific death scene or something like that. So, yeah, at this time this movie was made, there was no PG-13. So, yeah, probably pretty close. I would have to imagine, especially that face melting scene. Look, as a kid, that was pretty freaky. Not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, I can absolutely see that feeling some dang nightmares as a kid.
Anyway, back in Washington, D.C., the United States government rewards Jones for securing the Ark, despite Jones' insistence the agents state only the Ark has been moved to an undisclosed location for top man to study. In a vast warehouse, the Ark is crated up and stored amongst countless other crates. So, it's going to be studied. You got the Ark of the Covenant. We're just putting it in a crate with all these other crates.
Yeah, this amazing weapon that we need to study and we need to research, and here it is with countless other artifacts.
I guess it's a good thing that when the Ark kind of opened and everything, that it did away with their ropes, that binded them, or they would kind of been in pretty trouble.
Which brings me to another point. How did they get off? Were there? I guess there had to be radios and stuff like that in the.
That's why. Look, that's why we just skipped to back in Washington D.C. so we don't have to answer these questions.
There you go.
I mean, if we're gonna, if we got questions about that, I mean, technically, it's like this island. I guess is kind of like is it a military base because they have like the place where they bring the sub in, and it looks like a base.
It has to be the base. I don't know.
So
Let me
like,
look it up.
would all the Nazis have been there, or some of them have been where the submarines are?
Okay, well, it was filmed in Hawaii, but that doesn't help us here.
Does not answer my question at all.
Yeah, I know.
That's a great anecdote, though. Filmed in Hawaii.
This is a step fan theory series. So based on the fact that the island not only housed a submarine base, but was within 2 days of Egypt, I'm going to guess it was an island in the southern Mediterranean with ruins. So Malta or Sicily or Greek. There are several conjectures that support this. That it was accident. There was a desert beach bomb closest to Egypt and Libya, and not too far from the route towards the Allied powers the smugglers were taking. So, a lot of people say that it is like a military base.
So, if it's a military base, you wouldn't. I mean, I know this is like a big thing that everybody would want to see, but would you have like every single soldier on the island at this altar, or wouldn't you have people with the submarines or something?
I think it's just like an abandoned base.
Okay. Yeah. So
I think
if you don't look too much into it, just enjoy the movie for what it is.
Yeah, obviously we have to. Yeah, as we sit here and picked apart every unrealistic thing about it.
Well, especially in the 80s, or you could probably do that with a lot of movies. But at the end of the day, just sit back and enjoy the movie for what it is, and that's a great movie. Which kind of brings us to our next thing. So we're going to kind of rate the movie. So this is how we're going to do it. Obviously, this is the first episode. We're going to rate the movie out of 10, but we're also going to put it into categories. And we have 5 categories. So we have Blockbusters, the highest, and Blockbuster means it's an S tier movie. Everybody should see this movie. That's what that. And then so the second tier would be popcorn worthy, which means probably not S tier and probably not a movie that everybody just absolutely has to see, but still a very, very good movie. Middle tier is cult classic, which could be middle of the road, or it could be a good movie that maybe you just think is not for everybody, or maybe you particularly like it but don't think everybody would enjoy it. Fourth tier is matinee only, which means it doesn't quite hold up, or maybe not as good as we remember, or just maybe kind of not very good. And then straight to video is the bottom tier, and that means this movie is just straight up trash. So I guess I'll start. I know what category I want to put it in, but I haven't really thought about my rating.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that too. About where I wanted to put it.
I'm between 8.5 and 9. So I think I'm gonna go 8.5.
Okay.
Just because, it's really close, but I think a 9 is like, man, that's tough though. So I really love this movie, and I think it justifiably is one of the best cultural impactful movies that's ever been made, and it's in the National Film Registry, and I think it should be. But I think I'm gonna sit with 8.5. Yeah, I mean, there's better movies that I like personally, but I think 8.5 is what I'm gonna go with.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna necessarily give it that high of a rating. I think I'm gonna go probably with like I was debating between a 7.5 or an 8. I think I'm probably gonna go with an 8. Just because all around I think it was a great movie. Like you said, I think there are some movies that are probably a little bit better than this. And I mean, of no fault of its own. It is an older movie, but it's not definitely not the worst movie. I definitely enjoyed it. It's one of those like comfort movies that you can watch, kind of at any time.
And I think the character of Indiana Jones is fantastic.
Oh yeah,
Harrison Ford does a great job. I mean, if we're going, best character movies, rating character movies, I'd probably give him a 9.5 or a 10. I mean, that's really Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones is what makes the movie. I mean, the fedora, the whip. I mean, it's all
Yeah.
iconic. So,
Which
but as the movie
I know it's so funny because everybody always associates Harrison Ford as like Luke Skywalker, but as you know, I've never really watched any of the Star Wars. But I've always associated him as Indiana Jones. Like it just I don't know. It's just how I've always associated Harrison Ford in my mind.
Okay, so for anybody that may listen to this, maybe Dakota has not actually seen Star Wars yet. Don't worry,
None of them. 9 episodes, I haven't watched a single one.
It's yeah, don't worry, it's coming. But yes, so Harrison Ford does not play Luke Skywalker.
Oh, we'll see. Okay, I don't know who he plays.
we need to apologize for that because anybody that might listen to it, if they heard that part, might never listen to our show again.
I'm gonna apologize. Sorry. That shows you how little I actually know about Star Wars.
Yeah. So he plays Han Solo, which
Han Solo. There we go.
Iconic character.
Was one of them.
Which is funny, so Indiana, so which there's been a Han Solo movie that was like a prequel, and this came out a few years ago, and they recast. Obviously, it was a young Han Solo, so you're not going to have Harrison Ford.
Right. So, yeah, I remember when that came out.
He's perfectly okay with anybody playing it, but he refuses to let anybody else play Indiana Jones. So he will. I mean, unless when he dies, they just completely say screw him and go ahead. I mean, he will be the only ever Indiana Jones, which I think is okay. I mean, I'm pretty neutral on remakes. I don't really care, if they remake or whatever, if they recast the role, because if it's good, it's good, and if it's not, well, I mean, I still have the original, so it's not like it takes anything away. But I do think it would be cool to have some characters, just be untouchable.
And I think that's kind of a question too of, if they do ever recast Indiana Jones, who would be the actor to recast him as?
I don't know. That's tough because obviously it's not going to happen anytime soon because he's not going to allow it. And I haven't looked into it, so I don't really know if it's something like he has, so I don't know like if he dies, if they can I don't know how that works. But
yeah, I don't know.
That's a good question. I can't off the top of my head. I can't think right now who I would probably should have wrote that question down beforehand. That would have been good to think about.
Yeah, to bring a question up, yeah.
Glenn Powell.
Yeah.
Glenn Powell's. I mean, he's rocking just about everything he's in right now.
Yeah, you're right about that. He does a lot.
I don't know if he would be a good Indiana Jones though, but that was the first one that popped in my head. But anyways,
didn't he recently just do a movie that was like that though?
Did he? I don't know. I feel like he's done so much since Top Gun.
He's done a ton, yeah.
Which I know he did stuff before Top Gun, but it just feels like ever since Top Gun, he's been in so many movies, and he's about to have another Twisters comes out in a couple weeks.
So, he is in it, isn't he?
So, but anyways, so you gave it an 8 point. You gave it an 8?
8, yeah, an even 8.
So I gave it an 8.5. So average that out. It's 8.25. Make sure I write that down. And then what about your category?
I was thinking the what was it, the popcorn worthy?
Popcorn worthy.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because I don't think it's I mean, obviously it was a blockbuster. I mean, having a $20 million budget and still grossing $390 million at the blockbuster, like, I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. But I just don't think it kind of holds up to that blockbuster, like title. I guess if that makes sense, But I still think it's a good movie that you could sit down and obviously look at past, a few things like the submarine and a few things, and it's just a good movie you could sit down and enjoy,
I am gonna put it in the blockbuster category for
okay.
So and for this reason, like I said, I think the movie I put as about an 8.5. It's a great movie to watch, but the character of Indiana Jones, I think, is what makes it must watch. And so, I think, so I think it's a movie that everybody should see. And so that's going to put there. But, all right, well, first episode, we didn't go quite an hour. That was kind of my goal. So, hey 6 minutes short of an hour, or at this point. Hopefully, we're going to try to do this a weekly thing. But, we're just going to kind of see how that goes. Hopefully next week we're going to have an episode. We'll be doing Beverly Hills Cop. I'm looking forward to watching watching that because I don't think I've ever sat down and just fully watched it all the way through. I think I've seen pieces here and there, but I don't think I've ever sat down and fully watched it. And I know the new one just came out today, actually. So looking forward to watching that one.
Heck yeah, man. I am
And
too.
then I think hopefully we will have another guest host next week. So that'll be fun to have three people. And then, all right. So I guess that's it. Anything to add?
That's all I got, man. I've enjoyed it.
All right. Well, great first episode. Hopefully it sounds good when I play this back and try to edit it, and hopefully it goes well editing it, or this may never see the light of day and we just wasted an hour.
Hey, it's all in the fun, man. It's just me and you, right?
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for being with us, and if you listen to this, thanks for listening, and have a nice day.
Absolutely. See y'all.